What is up, guys? Today I'm here with the Viribus Chubby, I believe it's called. We're gonna go through this e-bike review today, but before we do that, we need to take a step back of how I built this. So let's take a look.
Okay, excuse my messy garage, but we just got this Viribus unboxed, and there's a couple things I want to point out. So what we've already kind of gone over is, well, this is a pretty great price point bike. You know, it seems to be trending towards a good value, we'll say. Now, you're also wondering, you know, like, it's out the door like just over $1,000 for 750 watt fat tire folding e-bike, or not folding, just fat tire e-bike. I was about to say most of the other fat tire e-bikes around this price range are the folding ones. So to have a full one, you know, kind of, these are what you'd be comparing it to, something like the Hofsco here. So why is this one about $500 cheaper than the other? Well, there's a couple things right off the bat. First of all, something I've never had to do while building a new e-bike is actually install the battery framing. Like, it just came in its box like this, as you see. I think we're gonna have to just unscrew up here what looks like where a water bottle holder would be on another bike, and it'll just attach there. So I don't see it as like a challenge or anything, but and then there's a third mounting point down there. It's hiding somewhere, like right here. This is gonna be the brake calipers that go with it, are not installed, which is, again, it's not like super hard to do, but almost, I'd say every bike I've ever built has that done for you already.
So as you can see, it wasn't too crazy, but you do need a little bit of bike knowledge to build this one. It was not just like a pull it out of the box and go. So basically, as we go through this video, we're going to be talking about, as far as a price point, remember this is only about $1,200, I think, for a fat tire e-bike. Now there's folding ones that could be compared to this, but it's kind of, from what I've seen, a little bit rare to see like a full framed out fat tire e-bike for under like $1,500. So the $1,200 mark is pretty interesting. That's what like drew me into reviewing this bike. But we're gonna dive into the parts review now, and we'll know right away of how they got that price point down. So let's take a quick look. All right, so starting from the rear, we do have regular mechanical disc brakes, which I'm not too picky on e-bikes of needing hydraulic brakes. It's nicer, but you know, you're not gonna get it at this price point. You're also gonna have a smaller motor. This is only a 500 watt motor, which is a little bit of a bummer. You know, every other fat tire e-bike that you'd compare this to has a 750 watt, but again, the theme of this bike is like, what did they have to cut to get to a $1,200 e-bike? Moving along, you'll notice like these are basically like, I don't know, 10 a dozen kickstand parts. The cranks are definitely on the cheaper side. The brakes are J&K Super Brake. You know, you're not going to get anything name brand on this. That said, though, we do have a decent derailleur. You at least get a Shimano branded Tourney TZ here, which definitely does the job. I've never had an issue with this on an e-bike, and this comes on almost every e-bike nowadays. That, or you get a cheaper one than this. So this is a decent derailleur, so nothing to worry about there. But that said, I rarely shift on an e-bike because that's what the pedal assist is for. So we actually, another interesting part is that there's a front derailleur. I reviewed a e-bike a couple weeks ago that had a front derailleur, and I just don't get the point. They could totally, I mean, maybe it's more expensive to have only a single chainring up here. It might be, but I would assume they'd delete this and use that cost on, you know, just, I don't know, anywhere here, because they definitely cheaped out a little bit. Moving up, you can see just a generic fork here. So even though it is a fat tire bike, you might not be able to go on any heavy trails or anything like that. It's definitely, how do I say it? Because it's not bad, it'll do the job, but you don't want to take this on anything serious. And if you remember in the installation part of this video, this whole battery we screwed on ourselves. The factory didn't do that. So those two things combined, I don't know, I just don't suggest taking this on anything serious. That said, you do have the beefier tires. You could let out some air and do some sand. You could do some like basic trails, no problem. Moving up, we have, I don't know, it's just weird looking to me, what they did here. When you're riding it, I took it on a quick ride. It doesn't feel too bad. It's a decent geometry. In fact, it mimics that of other bikes like it. It's just, it looks, I don't know. Some people might like it, but I don't know. What can you say? It's awkward, but it does the job. We do have, the only thing that I'd say is a deal breaker for me on this is the handlebar setup. Let me get a ruler actually, one moment. Okay, so here's a competing fat tire bike. This is the Hofsco Alpha. I like this bike a lot. I think it's a good value for the money. It's about $500 more than that one, so it's not a quick price jump, but this is the one I ride mostly. And it's got like a normal mountain bike geometry that feels pretty comfortable. And the handlebars on this, for reference, we'll just go across, around 27 inches, maybe a little more, actually 27 and a half. And you see we have full grips. Everything is comfortable and makes sense. So remember, 27 and a half. And this guy, we're looking at 24 and a half. So that's 3 inches, which on handlebars doesn't seem like a lot, but it really is. And you feel it. I promise you, you notice it. It's also a straight, it's also a straight bar setup. So it feels not as gradual and comfortable as like a curved bar. That said, remember, these things are maybe $20 to $50 to get a new handlebar setup here. One thing that you could do is swap that out and then definitely look into some new grips. Check out this. So for your main hand here, you only have about 3.5 inches, and then a standard grip length is almost 5. And yeah, you could technically fit it on there, but if you have big hands, that's going to be a little awkward. There's not a lot of full grip area unless you're constantly on the throttle. So those are the bugaboos about it. I'm just being a little maybe overly critical here, but it's important that I mention that stuff of, you know, that's how they probably got the cost down. That said, if you're smaller, that's not going to be an issue. If you aren't going on any heavy trails, that's not going to be an issue. Because overall, it still works. It's still a nice e-bike. And in fact, we're going to go take it on some hill tests right now and see how it performs. All right, quick tour of the display here. I've talked about this a little bit, but basically, do I wish it was a nice big color display? Absolutely. But are you missing anything having it like this small? No, it's really not that bad. You get all the same information you need. Sure, it'd be nicer to have a better display, but this will do the job. My biggest complaint is just this whole unit really cuts down on your grip space here, which, you know, is small. I hate it. So the operation here, you have, I think, only 3 levels of pedal assist. So like a slow, medium, and high. And then you can see I barely rode this a mile so far. You have your battery output, your miles per hour, no bells and whistles on this, which I think is actually a pretty big plus for a lot of people. I'll go back to this guy. Even I, who I'd consider pretty tech friendly, it has an app to sync with. You got to do all your settings in there. I mean, we can turn this on. It's got a bunch of details that you don't really need. Oh wow, that looks funky with the frame rates, but long story short, maybe too much information, where if you just want to get on and go, something like this, I've heard people preferring it. So if that's more your style, you just want like the bare basics, it's right here. And It's very, very simple. It's up to go to level 3, down to go back down to 1 or 0. You, of course, do have your throttle here. This is a Class 2 e-bike. And yeah, we're going to go take it on a ride and a hill test. Let's do it. All right, so we are riding. I'm at about a level 2, which has got some speed. Let's see, we're hitting around 12 miles per hour. One main thing I noticed on this is that the angle is very like aggressive. I'm very hunched over, almost like a road bike, which might be good for like some long rides and you want to have that more aggressive angle. It's not going to be like a cruiser bike. This is far from that. Something about this bike makes low speeds, and it's probably the angle I was talking about, it makes it feel like these low speeds of like 15 to 20, you're going a lot faster than you really are, which is kind of a fun thing. And something I'll say about the front chainring, I know I was complaining about that, but having those bigger gears up there actually makes it for a very fun pedal assist. Like, this is a great bike for pedal assist. Not so much for throttle only, but the pedal assist is pretty fun. Okay, at this part of the video, we're gonna do a flat ground test. And what that means, we're on a flat ground here. Maybe looks slightly sloped uphill. We're going to do throttle only, and this I always think is a great measure of how much power you actually get with a bike. Some are labeled 750, some are labeled 500, but due to like the weight of the bike, the weight of the rider, they're all going to perform differently. Like, I've had the Ad Motor City Pro, for instance, is a 500 watt e-bike that performs like a 750 because it's so light and has a huge battery. So all we'll do now is I'll hop on the bike, use throttle only at our max setting, and we'll see just the kind of acceleration that we get here in our top speed. And I always like to note, like, I am on the heavier rider side, so if it performs well for me, then you are going to have no problems. So we're gonna do the flat ground test here, and then we're gonna go up this hill, which is, and I know I say this every video, it looks flat-ish, but I promise it's pretty steep here. Okay. We'll go back to wide view and we'll get started. Ready, just throttle, go. So you saw my max speed only read out at like 17 miles per hour. So it feels about that. Maybe it's a little more and it's inaccurate. But I did just go by that machine right there and they matched perfectly. So 17 is where it maxed for me on flat ground. Again, bigger rider, around 245 pounds. So thick boy status. And we got up to almost 20 on throttle only. I will say pedaling definitely was in the higher, not higher 20s, but like 23 to 25 range. So pedaling, you'll get more speed. Plenty power I felt there. It was totally fine. So now we're going back to the hill and we'll do the same thing, but with a little bit of a steep challenge. So we'll see how slow it goes, how it performs. And I like to start like midway up the hill. That way we're starting on an angle and making the motor work pretty hard. Okay, at the hill, and we'll go 3, 2, 1, go. You feel it working. All right, we're approaching about one of the steeper parts. Hovering around 10 miles an hour. All right, so I know you're like, that's kind of arbitrary, Larry. I don't know what the miles per hour are, so I'll stack it up for you. I'd say on a 750 watt e-bike, I usually can get like 15 miles per hour on that same hill, where this one was around between 6 and 8 going through like the steeper part of the hill. So there is a lack of power compared to a 750 or a higher amperage battery that's going to give you more torque out the gate. That said, it performs okay. So, I mean, you're going to get up the hills when you need it. There's no lack of, what's the word? You're going to be okay. Whew, okay, just got back on a about 3 or 4 mile ride to get my first impressions in here, and they're mixed. You know, I don't really know where to start on this guy. Let's start with the power differences. You saw in the hill test, it was roughly, you know, I don't want to say half the power, but like half the speed I'm used to. I'm gonna try not to keep comparing it to this one because this is like a much more higher end e-bike. But I think it's important to just let you know what you'd be missing out on if you went with something like this more budget fat tire versus a more premium fat tire. So small things like a torque sensor. That's only going to be in like newer, higher end e-bikes. That 750 watt motor, you definitely notice it. It's going to help a ton. This one, again, has like an app and all those crazy things. Higher end fork, so if you did take this off-road, this one would be able to handle it. A battery that's securely in the frame, where that one's hovering above the frame. So if you are looking for anything off-road worthy, I really don't recommend this one. However, relatively like sandy or, you know, rail trails or anything like that, this will be able to handle it no problem. And in fact, it's pretty fun to pedal with. It's got a good pedal assist balance, and you know, I'll go back on what I said earlier. I did kind of like having the three chainring option in the front, because you can really dial in your pedal assist to be kind of that perfect level when you have both of those. Do I think it's necessary? No, but it was kind of a plus. I did like it. And like I said, throttle only mode, not the best, but for you know, pedal assist riding, where you're pedaling more and you don't mind like a weaker bike, you want more of the bike aspect than the e-bike aspect, this actually does check some boxes. Now, due to the lack of power though, you can see I haul everything in this. My girls, I can put items in there, ignore the mess right now, my whole garage is ruined. But this can handle everything because of that bigger motor and bigger battery. This one does not have that, but I would say if you are maybe in your 20s and you're looking for something to get the job done, you want something a little more than maybe like this cheaper. Like this is, I don't even know how cheap this is now. I think it's like $600 or $700, maybe $8. And then this is 12, and you want that step up, but you want a little bit more of a traction, and you want to have a little bit more power, because this is 500 watts where the one I just showed is 350. You know, this is that medium option. And because it's just over $1,000, you know, $1,200, I wouldn't say you're breaking the bank really either. What I would have you do if you're, you know, really diving into this and you're thinking about buying it, cross-reference. I would look at some folding fat tires, because there's so many in the same price range. I would look at the amp hours of this one versus some of those folders. And if you see one that's around like 15 amp hours or more for the same price, that's what you're buying at the end of the day. You want a really nice battery, because I would say a new battery is probably half of the cost of this one. No, that's not right. This battery is a little cheaper. It's probably like $300 or $400, but long story short, look for a better battery, and if you find it, maybe do it. But if this one does check the boxes for you personally, you can upgrade it. Everything I said bad about it, like the handlebars and stuff, they're all upgradable. So it's really not that bad. You can even get like an adjusting stem that can like bring the handlebars up, and then it'll be way more comfortable to ride. And in fact, if you do buy this, I would get the adjustable stem as well as a new handlebar here, because that's the only thing I like despise about this bike. The rest is just totally fine. And for $1,200, you know, there's probably a lot to compare it to. So I don't envy your search right now, because there's probably so many in that price range. But, you know, this is worth considering. You've seen the pros, you've seen the cons. Oh, I guess one small thing, go back to my messy trailer here. It does also come with fenders. I don't usually put fenders on my e-bike, but hey, if you're going off-roading, I just said not to take this off-roading. I don't know. You can put your fenders on if you want. Do what you like. Anyways, I think that about does it for the Viribus Chubby. Overall, what do I say? It's like totally fine. It's upgradable, so you're not like wedged in with any of the issues that I feel like I have. It's very, very much... Here's the summing it all up. Is it's fun for pedal assist riding, some rail trails, some very, very light off-roading. You're gonna have a blast with this thing. Anything higher, if you need to, you know, haul the kids, if you need more power, really, if you're using this as like maybe a hunting bike, or anything in like the deep trails where that's why you were considering a fat tire, check out something else. It's worth spending a couple extra $100 to make sure you don't blow your motor in the middle of the woods, trust me, because that can happen, or pop your battery or anything like that. So hopefully that helps. If you have any questions, you know, you can always comment in the videos, and I'll do my best to get back to you guys. And yeah, thank you so much. Bye.